Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin by always saying this, that I say this to him, that I see so much of the greatness of his late father, Madhavrao Scindia, in Jyoti. Every time I meet him, for me, Jyoti, it is deja vu. I began my career in the late 90s, and his house, where I started my career. I would stand outside and he would call us in. He was a charming, wonderful, generous, intuitive man who had a great sense of the country, and it's so sad that destiny snatched him away from us even before his prime. And so I'd like to begin by just remembering your father as I share with you on the stage.
Thank you.
So thank you for continuing the connection, Jyoti. Ladies and gentlemen, Jyotiraditya Scindia has had a very interesting political career. He came into politics on the demise of his father. He's a very, very well qualified professional, has been an investment banker. And when he entered politics, many people passed judgment that it would be difficult for him to do politics from the roots. But both politics and governance from the roots to being a many, many times successful member of parliament. And today, if I may say so, Jyoti, I want to begin by saying everyone in the country says, you are the turnaround minister. That's what they call you. And the reason they call you the turnaround minister is because you are always put in place when the chips are down. From the privatization of Air India to now the historic turnaround of BSNL. BSNL, under his leadership, for the first time in 17 years, has reported profits. In Q3, BSNL, nobody thought would be profitable, reported a profit of 271 crores. He says he plans to have 1 lakh planned towers operational for a nationwide 4G rollout of BSNL, and you yourself have referred to it, Jyoti, as the significant turning point for BSNL. What is so significant behind this turnaround? What is this approach? And since this theme is about Limitless India, what is the limitless mindset behind it?
So first of all, Arnab, thank you very much for having me, and it's always a pleasure to be with you and to be a part of Republic's grand event as it's being held this year as well. Just to add on to your story of when the chips are down, I was also made power minister when the grid collapsed in India. Yes. the next morning, and therefore entrusted with the responsibility that this should never ever happen again.
Yes.
The issue with the story of BSNL is it's actually one of the jewels of India in a fiercely competitive environment. I'm just coming back from the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and the EU, which is made up of now 27 states, 27 countries. There is, even if I use the word fierce competition, it would not be doing justice to the environment of telecom in that block of the world. And in that environment, for a government-owned telco to not only survive, but to service 9.5 crore customers, to grow, and after 17 years, as you mentioned, the first quarter after 17 years that BSNL has made a profit has been in the October-December quarter of last year. And keep in mind that this is in an environment, as I mentioned, of fierce competition. And not only that, when all other telcos across the world, including in India, and we've had the privilege of having 4 telecom service providers in India. There are not many countries across the world that have that many players in the telecom space. All set up their 4G, 5G networks using imported equipment. And let me tell you, there are only 4 players in this space in the world. There's Huawei and ZTE from China.
Yep.
There's Ericsson from Sweden. There's Nokia from Finland, and there's Samsung from Korea. Only 4 telecom equipment manufacturers, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, and hopefully by 2030, 6G. In that space, the Prime Minister's vision, and this goes into your topic of Limitless India, Atmanirbharta, do what earlier could not be even dreamt of. And he said we need to produce our own 4G stack. And if BSNL is going to go into 4G, it will do so based on an Indian 4G stack. And for the first time in the world's history, after 3.5, 4 decades, you have seen an Indian government-owned technology company, CDOT, manufacture the core. You've seen a private sector company, Tejas, manufacture the RAN, which is the radio access networks, which are the towers that you see. You've seen an Indian SI, system integrator, TCS, manage all this process together. And today we're rolling out 100,000 towers of 4G proven technology on BSNL networks. So by June this year, my 100,000 towers will be fully operational, and hopefully, starting June this year, I'll also be switching from 4G to 5G on those towers.
That's amazing. Why do we, layman question, why do we need to do that? Why does the government need to push this? Is it because in India, communications is a strategic asset? And in that sense, BSNL is also a very strategic asset of a very strategic ministry. Is that the intent behind it? Why should the government
communications, you have to understand. So let's understand the US story, Arnab.
Yeah.
America today is a superpower. But how did America get there? We've got our young students sitting here in the audience. America got there not because America experienced 10% growth rates, 15% growth rates, 20% growth rates, but because America grew at only 3.5%. But it grew at 3.5% for 100 years. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of compounding. So when America laid out its infrastructure, the Vanderbilts, the JP Morgans that laid out the highways, laid out the railways, today that infrastructure in the world is necessary. But is the past or the present? The future highway of the world is the digital highway. And on that digital highway, India, ladies and gentlemen, is among the top 3 in the world today, thanks to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And to be able to give you a flavor of that, a vignette of that, 10 years ago, we had 94 crore subscribers in India of mobiles. Today we have 120 crore subscribers. We're the second largest telecom market in the world. We're the second largest telecom market in the world. We had 250 million internet subscribers. Today we have 970 million internet subscribers. Above 2 GB, which is considered as broadband, we had only 60 million broadband users, 60. Today, guess what? We have 942 million broadband users. And all of this, which is going to be Arnab's next question, at what cost? Right? Because 10 years ago, a voice call would cost you 50 paise a minute. Today, a voice call costs you 0.03 paise a minute. 97% reduction. 97%. 1 GB of data, what we use on our phones. These necessary instruments that have become a part of our, not our daily, but our every second of our lives. Sometimes I feel we are more attached to our phones than people around us, which is a travesty. But 1 GB of data used to cost $287 10 years ago. Today, it costs 9 rupees. At 11 cents, that's 9 rupees, we are the cheapest data provider in the world. The cheapest data provider. And on consumption of data, today we consume 21 GB per month. Average data per user. We are the largest consumer of data in the world today. So that's the journey that India has embarked upon. We talk about 5G. India rolled out the fastest 5G network in the world. 21 months, 99% districts, 82% population, 465,000 towers, 4.25 lakh crores worth of investment. We went there, we did it, and we stand tall. Which is why, Arnab, I say, we followed the world on 4G. We marched with the world on 5G. And I guarantee you, we will lead the world on 6G.
Superb. What was my next question? I forgot. You want to remind me? But you know, this is great, Jyoti. But you know, we have a person called Donald Trump these days.
For a while.
Huh?
We've had him for a while.
We've had him for a while, yeah. Now he says that open it up, or I'll impose tariffs, and I'll impose tariffs. And they're so bad, he says. And after what he did to Zelensky, everybody's sort of cautious about him. On a serious note, we appreciate what you've done with BSNL, and there's a passion in what you're doing. But we live in an era of tech bros, Mr. Scindia, and especially the ministry that you work for looks after the interests of almost 950 million plus internet users in the country today. And then you have Elon Musk, who owns Starlink and is very keen on entering India. And your comment that you will not put any false restrictions on anyone's entry raised eyebrows. Existing Indian players were concerned, others were concerned. So very direct question to you: in today's world, we have to take care of our interests while allowing our gates to be open to the world. And how will we navigate that? We have so far not provided Starlink permissions to operate in India over what was seen to be privacy and security concerns. I'm not passing judgment on them. But are these security concerns real? Are they going to be a matter of great concern? Are there any external pressures? If external pressures are put, how will we handle it? Are we in a position to hold our own? And I'll just put a little subjective context to this. We need to open up to the world. But there are people who say that when liberalization happened in India, and we are all 90s kids, we were not prepared. You know, the drugs and pharmaceuticals industry of India suddenly got overtaken with all these Chinese companies, cheaper drugs, opened the doors, and it hit some Indian players like IDPL very badly. So I'm asking in the context of BSNL, external players, cheap data, and ambitious foreign companies who say, we want to be in this market, and nothing in the world can stop us. So if you can just put that in perspective for us, what goes through your mind? Mr. Scindia.
So Arnab, which India are you living in? The India I live in is assertive. The India I live in is confident. The India that I live in comes up with disruptive models and paradigm shifts that are unequaled in any corner of the world. Today, India truly is limitless. India has shown that her rise is a peaceful rise. India has shown what the Prime Minister always says, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. And we have shown that, Arnab, during COVID. Which country in the world was able to give 200 crore vaccines to its populace? Free of charge, not a single rupee charged from any citizen. India, a country that used to go with a begging bowl to those foreign powers for smallpox vaccines, for BCG vaccines, today manufactured her own 2 vaccines. India not only looked after her own, But India looked after the world. We exported through Vaccine Maitri to 150 countries, vaccines free of cost. India has shed that skin that you talk about. Look at Republic. He's got his own 5-acre campus. He's setting up a global channel. We are not scared of anyone. Our doors are open for everyone to come and use an opportunity in India to grow and to serve our country, men and women, and to serve the world. And as far as I'm concerned, the telcos are my stakeholders, the internet service providers are my stakeholders, the broadband connectors are my stakeholders, the telco equipment manufacturers are my stakeholders, but my most important stakeholder is sitting in front of me.
Wow.
And therefore, my job as Telecom Minister, Communications Minister, or my job as Civil Aviation Minister, or my job as Power Minister in the past, has been to make sure that I give my most important stakeholder every choice available in the world. And my stakeholder will choose based on their requirements which mode and media they would like to use at which point of time. But everything must be available to them. And therefore, with SATCOM policy as well, we passed the bill in Parliament, the Telecom Act, in November of last year. We've got the licensing regime in place, and let me correct you, 2 SATCOM licenses have already been given out. There are 2 companies that already have SATCOM licenses, Bharti Airtel and Jio. And India is open for anyone who wants to come and do business in India. But you need to check all the boxes, fill up the pro forma, just like everyone else does, and the minute you do that, you've got your license.
That's an answer to the Starlink question?
Sorry?
Was that an answer to the Starlink question?
Yes, of course there was. It was a direct answer. I'm not here to represent company A, company B, Arnab Goswami, or anyone else. I'm here to represent my stakeholders. Whoever wants to come and serve my stakeholders, follow the rules, go buy the license, fill up the boxes, and you'll get the license tomorrow.
And the reason I'm asking this question is because your answer represents exactly what we say about Limitless India. We are not defensive anymore, are we? I mean, we are not defensive.
We are the second largest telecom market in the world. We're the second largest auto market in the world. We're the third largest civil aviation market in the world. We are the third largest road network in the world. We're the 4th largest railway network in the world.
So come compete.
A country that could build from 74 airports, 160 airports in 10 years, a country that could build from 90,000 kilometers of highways, 150,000 kilometers of highways. India is limitless.
Yeah. Superb. We love that.
And that limitless India, the leaders of that limitless India are sitting in front of me.
Yep.
I firmly believe as an Indian, our growing up years, and I don't want to tell the people how old you are or how old I am, Arnab, because they'll rather get disenchanted with us. But the India that we grew up
yes, that's what I
was
wanted
chained,
to
was limited. The India we live in today, anything is possible. I'm so envious. I'm so jealous of the kids sitting up there. I wish I was their generation. The next 25 years, from our Amrit Kal to our Shatabdi Kal, from today to 2047, I firmly believe is going to be India's quarter of a century. The fact that today you and I are talking about Viksit Bharat 2047, it's become a part of our lexicon thanks to our Prime Minister. Atmanirbhar Bharat is part of our lexicon today. These were not words that you and I grew up even hearing many, many years ago. And today, the respect that we command on the world stage, the respect because of our Prime Minister, his leadership, his capability, and what he has done, how he has transformed India in 10 years. I don't want to get into the social paradigm as well, but that's important. Can you imagine 30 million houses being built in 10 years? We built 30 million houses in 65 years. Prime Minister has built it in 10 years. 90 million women getting advantage of one scheme, Ujjwala Yojana, 90 million. Twice the population of the country I just went to, Spain. 90 million women getting a stove and a gas cylinder in 10 years. Close to 340 million people in our country availing of the Ayushman Yojana, where you get a 5 lakh coverage for insurance. Could we even think that was possible 10 years ago? 350 million people, the population of the United States of America. These numbers are astounding. They've never been done in the history of the world before. They're done now. Why? Because we have Limitless India.
Wow. So, Jyotiraditya, my last question to you is, when you turn the clock back and you go to the start of your political career and your career as a professional when you came out of college, things have changed, no doubt, no doubt. But I wonder, and since you're a grassroots politician, you've been to the Lok Sabha so many times, do you see the trickle-down effect? My question is simple. From your constituency, from Madhya Pradesh to the villages where you campaign, to the poorest of the poor, is there a trickle-down effect? Because my concern is whether this Limitless India is only limited to urban centers of prosperity. So how do we address that issue? How long will that trickle-down effect take to actually seep into the soil of this country?
Very good question, Arnab. And let me tell you, when I talk about us as Indians, I'm not talking about those of us who are seated here in Bharat Mandapam alone. I'm talking about every single Indian from Jammu Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Bharuch in Gujarat, till where the sun blesses us on our soil, the first ray of the sun in Arunachal Pradesh. Every single Indian today, and I represent a rural constituency, every single Indian today wants to be an employer and not an employee. And that speaks of our entrepreneurial capability. And let me give you an example of that. I was in a district in Madhya Pradesh and I met with a bunch of SAGs, this is about a year ago, self-help groups, women self-help groups. And one of the ladies who I met, I spoke to her and I said, how did you start? And she said, only my husband would earn in my family. So I said, let me buy a couple of cows and let me start a dairy business. And she said, I started this dairy business and I had 2 cows and there were 4 of us women from that village. And today, which is 2.5 years later, she has grown that SAG from 4 women. Okay, let me take a dipstick view here. To how many women do you think? Anyone has a guess? 300. Okay, so I got one number 300 here. Anyone else? 1,000. Okay, we got 1,000 here. Anyone else? 5,000. She's grown it to 10,000 women.
Oh, huge. Incredible. That's ambition. That's ambition. That's drive.
Another woman, she said, I became an agent for an insurance company. And I started doing so well. My husband had a dream of always owning his own car, but we didn't have enough income. And she said, I earned so much money because I became one of the best-selling insurance agents for that company.
Yeah.
She said, after working like this for 2.5 years, I bought my husband his first car.
That's amazing.
It's a sense of pride. And that's where India is going. It's not Bengaluru, it's not Chennai, it's not Kolkata, it's not Bombay, it's not Delhi. It's across the length and breadth of our country. And having been an investment banker, Arnab, you look at the top 200 companies on the BSE Sensex, and you may think that they are headquartered in Mumbai and Delhi and Bengaluru and all of that. And then if you look at the top 500 companies in the BSE, they all, in terms of market cap, they all come from tier 2 cities. They all come from smaller towns.
Small towns.
They don't come from the top 5 metros.
First generation.
First generation.
First generation.
And every 10 years, and you and I have seen this, this never happened in, again, our growing years.
Our lifetime.
But today, every 10 years, when you go to an award ceremony, and you know, the business leaders are getting awarded, every 10 years, you'll see a change. The guys who got awarded 10 years ago are no longer there. It's the new guys who are there.
Yep.
So I remember Andy Grove's, I was fortunate to be taught by Andy Grove, one of the founders of Intel at Stanford Business School. And he, in his last class, his class was always the 9 a.m. class. So we always had to be there 5 minutes early. In the last class like this, we were all sitting in the auditorium, and he said, you know, I have nothing to say to you guys. I wish you guys all the best. I only left 4 words on the, and we have those desks, those whiteboards which go one above the other, so you can hide something behind it. As he said, I've left 4 words behind. After I leave this auditorium, just go and check out what it is. And for those of you, it'll be useful for you in any walk of life that you choose to be in. And he walked out of the auditorium. So we scampered up and we said, let's check this out. What is he written? And we put down the board, and there were 4 words there. And those 4 words were, only the paranoid survive. So be paranoid. Thank you.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Jyotiraditya. And one last thing about him, you know, people say, what kind of people should come into politics? And one very interesting facet about you I learned right now. He walked in, I said, which gate is Mr. Scindia coming from? This gate, that gate, we couldn't find you. And then eventually somebody said that, see, this man is strange. He's a union cabinet minister. He doesn't have a PSO. He doesn't have security. He doesn't have an escort car. He doesn't have 5 people around him. I said, what does he do? He said, just comes in his car, walks in, and he's signing files all the way. So I think, you know, when people tell me that in the UK, you sometimes find a big minister in a subway, right? We're happy about that, right? He's one of us. So we're happy about that. You're a good man in politics. I wish you luck, and may you contribute everything to your potential for a limitless India, which you will, Mr. Scindia. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scindia, for your powerful vision and